Hi, I'm Gonzalez-Franco from Microsoft Research, and I'm going to be presenting using facial animation to increase the enfacement, illusion, and avatar self-identification. The motivation for this work is very clear. Self-identity is very strongly associated with our faces, and we're trying to figure out how can we improve that self-identity on avatars.
Our self-identity is very strongly associated with our face. While this self-avatar face may not be usually visible to the user in an immersive experience, mirrors or mirrored surfaces will allow the user to inspect themselves.
So, and not only that, we will have many social interactions with other people, and it's important that we feel this self-identity, the avatar, it's representing us.
Our self
One obvious way to increase self-identification with avatars is to create avatars that look alike. So there are pipelines that you can use to create avatars that look like you and then use them in virtual reality. I want to enter a bit more of detail of how much this lookalike avatar is self-identify. And there have been some studies using electrophysiological recordings and electrodes on the visual cortex show that virtual faces produce similar P200 responses after seeing an avatar of you, and it's very similar to seeing a picture of you. And there are more details on this paper in Frontiers in Human Neuroscience about that. Another possible way to explore self-identification with avatars is to go all the way to the root of how do we perceive this avatar to be our own. And that is body ownership illusions, right? When you go through this visual tactile or visual motor stimulation and create this illusion that the avatar is your avatar, do you also increase your self-identification? And how can we use that to increase in better ways this self-identification? So one of the most known ways to produce body ownership illusions is through visual tactile stimulation. It's based on the rubber hand illusion. There is a synchronous tap between the hand of a participant and a rubber hand that the hand of the participant is behind a curtain and the person starts perceiving like the rubber hand is their hand. The same can be done with visual motor stimulation, that is body tracking, and the avatar moves as you move, and you start having that illusion also of body ownership and embodiment. And indeed, these theories of body ownership illusion have been used for creating face ownership illusion and enfacement illusion. And for example, visual tactile stimulation of you looking at another face later creates a stronger self-identification over that face. The way generally this has been measured, and for example, in this paper in Social Neuroscience, it's a good example of enfacement illusion, is after this stimulation, either synchronous or asynchronous, you place people in front of a morphing video that morphs from the participant face into the avatar face or the mannequin face, and you ask them to stop the video whenever this face doesn't look like you anymore. And you also throw the video, or you show the video in the other direction from the avatar into the person, and you ask them to stop it whenever it starts looking like you. There is something interesting about this, is that there will be different times. If you have a stronger self-identification, you will be more tolerant with the new face morphing into yours, and you'll stop the face later. So that delayed in the time in which you respond, it is considered to be a self-identification trigger. Another way to create a stronger self-identity is in the same way as before through visual motor stimulation. So you have head tracker for the face, facial tracking, and that transfers into an avatar, and that will increase your self-identification. So here we go further, and we want to explore a bit more what other ways we can have to increase self-identification on avatars when we have possibility to include facial expressions. We create an experiment with 3 different conditions. Still face, in which you're interacting in front of a mirror with an avatar that never moves the face. Lip sync, in which the lips are synced with your voice, and an animated and lip sync. I want to show you a little bit how they look like. On the left, you can see the still face, and on the right, the face with idling expressions and lip sync. Just to be clear, the idling expressions were created by an artist, an animator, and they were not real-time motion capture, but they provided these, small saccades and small muscle movements on the face. They were very realistic. Let me show you again. You can clearly notice the difference. And this is not even adding much of the talking yet, okay? We then went on to measuring which one of the different conditions was creating a stronger self-identification. One way to do that is to do a morphing, as they did in the previous enfacement illusions with the touching on a face. We do a similar thing. Basically, we morph from the faces of the participants to the avatars, and you're gonna ask people to stop the morphing whenever they feel the avatar it's them or not longer them, like, oh, that is no longer me, when it goes from the participant to the avatar, and when it goes in the other direction is, oh, that looks like me, and then they stop. So they do that 3 times in both directions, and we figure out the point in which they stop. Another metric we had is during the interaction, which you will see now, it's kind of like a pep talk. We measure the gaze as of where people were looking at. That was estimated from the HND direction raycasting, not directly eye tracking. And finally, we had some embodiment questions regarding how much people felt embodied in the different conditions. The task was very clear. We did first the morph baseline. We figure out where people thought the avatar stopped looking like them or not. Then they performed the task inside virtual reality for each condition, in which they are asked to repeat sort of a pep talk in front of a mirror, and they are asked to move and to sort of act like if they were actors trying to convince someone. Then we do again the morph to see if the exposure has changed their performance and self-identification, and then we do the questionnaire.
Experienced 3 conditions. In still face condition, participant completed the experiment while the avatar face remained static. In lip sync condition, the avatar lips were moving in real time according to the speech of the participant. You might never fail.
In the scale I did.
In the scale that I did.
But some failure in life.
But some failures in life
Are inevitable.
In idle plus lip sync condition, the avatar included additional eye blinks and subtle facial animation that increases the vividness of the avatar face. Talent
And intelligence
and intelligence
never inoculated anyone against the caprice of the fate.
against the caprice of the fate.
And here are the results for the morphing. task. So first thing that it's clear here from the results is that there is an hysteresis on the self-recognition. The hysteresis, it's a very normal effect on material science. For example, when you change in temperature from one direction to the other, it will happen at different temperatures. And here is kind of similar. So when you're moving from the self to the avatar, your press naturally sooner, as this is no longer me, than when you're moving from the avatar to the self. It will take you longer to press, oh, that looks like me. And that won't align. It won't be always 50-50. In fact, there will be a gap. And the hysteresis in itself already tells you a lot about the self-identification. And how you have room to bring them together. So the first result that we see here is that no matter in which condition, if you let me see if I can use this, all of these conditions do produce a much smaller difference in the hysteresis than the baseline condition, which is the black one. And that is significant. So there is a better self-identification on the avatars when you are after the embodiment, no matter which condition. But then if we go directly to the results here, we can see that the still phase did not create such a strong self-identification as compared to the lip sync and the animated lip sync in the indirection, which is from the avatar to the self. And in the out direction, that was even more, that the animated and lip sync was even a stronger self-identification, and all of that is significant. There are more details about the results on morphine inside the paper. When we look at the gaze heat map, where people were looking at when acting in front of the mirror, in the still phase, they're only looking at the face 39% of the time, versus in the lip sync and the animation lip sync, they look much more to the face. So the face becomes more important when it's transferring more information, of course, and that is significant. Let's see, and it's also significantly more when there is the facial animation than just lip sync, okay? When we go to the embodied result, we find that people were most embodied in the lip sync and animation conditions, particularly, I mean, they were embodied in all the conditions, but the question one was particularly significantly different for the lip sync and animation and lip sync conditions, saying that self-identification might be also a byproduct of embodiment, and the other way around, like the stronger face identification you have, the stronger the embodiment. From our experiment, we found that the enfacement illusions on avatars produce also a stronger self-identification on these avatars, and this is the strongest when we add facial and idle animations and lip sync. And there is a higher embodiment when there is a higher self-identification, for example, with lip sync. That may be because people are looking the faces for longer periods when they are animated, or they focus more on the faces, and that creates a stronger self-identification, which later adds into the embodiment. And so there are interesting effects on the enfacement illusion that go beyond just self-identification. They transfer into embodiment, and they transfer at where people look at during interactions, and this might be also relevant for telecommunications or any social interaction in which you want people to look at the other person's faces. I want to finish by going back into the motivation. The main idea here was we wanted to explore how can we improve self-identity on avatars. And we showed that, you can have lookalike avatars, and you can have a very good motion capture of the facial expressions, and that will help you in self-identifying yourself. But I think one of the interesting takeaways from this experiment is that in theory, you could achieve better self-identification even if you don't have a lookalike avatar and even if you don't have real-time motion capture of the face. So with that, I'll leave it to questions.